Here's Brody Brazil.
Bryce is hyped for a Major League Baseball season where every team faces off at least once. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I do like this addition for Major League Baseball. And really when I say addition, I guess the subtraction is you're not going to be playing your divisional opponents 19 times anymore. I think it's cut down to about 13. But 19 times was way too much, right? If you're the Oakland A's, you're one of 5 teams in the AL West. So you have 4 other opponents. 19 times 4 is almost 80. Let's just round up, and I know it's a couple short, but it's almost 80. And 80 is right on the doorstep of half of your season. 80 of 162. I guess what? It's 76 is what it really is of 162. Is that right? Yeah. 76 of 162 is how it used to be in your own division. Now, that's fine. Geographically, those teams can help decide your season's fate. For the A's in a lot of years, like in 2021, really rough second half. But it was the Seattle Mariners alone who beat the A's 13 straight times and essentially kept Oakland out of the playoffs, even though, the A's kind of self-inflicted out of the postseason, without anybody else's help. But really, the Mariners are the ones that, if the A's I think they finished 4 games out of a playoff spot. So even if they went 500 against the Mariners in those 13 games or 6 wins in 13 games, they're in the playoffs. Instead, Seattle held them out. In a season where the Mariners were not great, the A's totally flopped in the end, but you understand my point. There is that interest factor when it's the division deciding the division. But I like to see the fact that you will get an A's-Marlins matchup this year. You'll get A's-Cardinals. You'll get A's-Nationals. You'll get A's-Mets. I think that's great. And hockey did that a handful of years ago. Actually, hockey took it a step further. What they do is that you face every other team in the league. Eastern Conference or Western Conference, you face them once at home and once on the road. And the NHL had to do that a handful of years ago because when you had Ovechkin and Crosby as your, kind of your league leaders, so to speak, your big faces of the league, your front-facing figures, your superstars, however you want to describe them. If you're out west out here, and maybe you get the Penguins coming out to LA, Anaheim, and San Jose one year, and then maybe neither team comes out between they and the Caps the next year, and then maybe the Caps come out one year. It doesn't make sense. And players love, going back home, so to speak. If they're from a certain NHL market, they grew up there. Of course, they want the opportunity to play there every season, and at least once, right? There are players like Marc-Edouard Vlasic on the Sharks who grew up in Montreal and absolutely loves that trip back. Every year they make it now. For a lot of years when he was first in the league, it was every couple years. Or the Habs would come out west, they'd play a game there, and that was it for a few years. Then the Sharks would go out to Quebec. So I think this is awesome. It's going to give you all the matchups. I guess the next step would be the home and home thing or a home and road thing. Each team gets to face every other team home and road. But then maybe we're talking about chewing up too many games and maybe then we're not playing enough divisional games. There is a certain amount of divisional games I think you've got to play. I've always said this in hockey, though, too. I'd rather not play the other division in your conference. Now, that's a hockey way of saying it, right? Because hockey, it's East and West. Baseball, it's American and National League. What I'm saying is, like, for example, I don't need to see the A's play the AL Central a bunch. Honestly, I'd rather have the A's play the AL West a certain amount of times, and then the AL Central, the AL East, the NL West, the NL Central, and the NL East all an equal amount of time after that. Maybe that doesn't make sense for travel. Maybe they try and keep the Western teams out west as much as possible, the Eastern out east. The Central can kind of go back and forth. They're all technically mostly East anyway. But I'm excited for this. I do think it is an evolution. I don't know if enough people are even aware of this yet. They'll certainly find out, or when they're looking at the schedule to buy tickets, they want to see their favorite team. Maybe you're a unique person who, well, I guess this wouldn't be that unique. The A's are from Philadelphia, right? So how about when the Phillies and A's now play every season, at least one series? And I think the Phillies are coming out west this year because the A's started their season last year in Philadelphia. That was odd, right? Interleague series to start the season, but I think it's a great idea. I'm all for it, and I like this. I like constant evolution of things. And we see it with the new rules, the pace timer, the lack of a shift. I mean, the ghost runner / courtesy runner, they're keeping that. Baseball has actually, I will give baseball credit. They've been doing some things and making some changes and some major moves and things that are designed to succeed. Stuff that 10 years ago, I don't think they would ever consider. So I do give baseball a lot of credit.